Hey, what's going on, guys? Well, technical difficulties, and everyone took all the video and video clips away. So, yay! Spider-Man is here. Woo! ComicManAndy, how you doing?
The beard's getting a little green tonight. I think it's ready for some Turtles action.
What about you, Drew? How you doing tonight?
Man, I don't know how you lost your video clips, but I'm ready to do karate in the garage.
We're best friends. Let's do karate in the garage.
Yeah, let's do stand. So, yeah, Ricky Markstat's in the chat. Thanks, Ricky. Nice to be here. And then the stream element said, who cares about that gimmick? Anyway, we're here to talk Turtles.
Let's talk that way about the bot.
Yeah. That's why my computer's about to, just quit on me. Because the stream elements bot wants its revenge.
Well,
so tonight we're going to be talking all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it's going to be a blast. We're going to talk about fruit pie. Man, I miss those pies. Damn it. I want those pies back. That green custard was amazing. I need that in my life again. If you had a time machine, would you get 10,000 frozen pies? And just that way you could eat them for the rest of your life? Or would you go back and get maybe that TMNT number 1 from 1984? And comments misexplained. Let's see if I can bring up a comment here. Oh, it's not even uploaded yet. I can't. Okay, great. Comments misexplained says respect the robot. All right, we'll see what happens if I do that. But TMNT Volume 1, you guys were kind of I couldn't hear you earlier, but you guys were kind of talking opposite views here. So this is kind of like the Ultimate Universe style version of Ninja Turtles. Kevin Eastman called it in the interview I got a chance to do with him the definitive version of Ninja Turtles that him and Tom Waltz have came up with here. So, Andy, I'm just going to let you go ahead and start getting into it. What did you think of TMNT Volume 1?
Oh, man, I enjoyed it quite a bit. My history with Turtles is kind of short and condensed. Growing up as a kid, obviously, first movie in 1990, the toys were released. I don't remember the exact year, but it came down to the toys in the movie for me. I didn't know the comic book ever existed when I was a kid. The cartoon, I caught bits and pieces here. And then eventually you kind of grow up and have different responsibilities and kind of move on. So you forget. But what I was extremely pleased with is when you open up this book and get into those pages, there were my 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with the wide faces, the giant teeth grins, smiling. Because let's face it, the Turtles have had different kind of artwork over the years where they don't quite look the way I remembered them. So I was pleasantly surprised getting into Volume 1 where they looked like the way I remembered them. I was very welcomed into the story. They did a really good job with conveying action and movement. I was really happy with that, and I really enjoyed the color palettes in there. Colors were great.
Yeah, I want to get into the colors in a little bit, but I want to get Drew's first impressions first, because Drew, you said you were a little confused by the first volume.
They're not super confused, but I think that it's confusing. I think that the way that the story is told and it leaves a lot of questions open. And I think that when I read today, I read Volume 1, and then I immediately read Volume 2, and then Volume 3, and then Volume 4. And Volume 1 stacked up against 2 and 3 does a lot for me. I like it as a setup point, but at the same time, I got a lot of questions. Like, Raphael roamed the streets as a mutant turtle for a year by himself. Never anybody going, there's a giant turtle, and never running into a situation where he got into trouble until that first scene where we see it in this book. There's something about that I don't buy. And the fact that the true origin of the Turtles isn't told until a later volume, which I really do enjoy the way that they pull it all together. I just felt that there was a lot of kind of just sloppy thrown in writing in the first volume.
Well, to be fair, that was a very similar reaction in the original movie in the 90s. When people would see them, and then there was no reaction from the people. They didn't flip out. They didn't freak out.
Right. Raphael runs into all these people, and there is never a reaction on the human being's face that is a giant freaking turtle.
Yeah.
like the hot dog vendor doesn't seem to care. Casey is unfazed by the fact that a giant turtle breaks into his house and beats the shit out of his dad. Like,
so you mentioned their origin happens in a later volume. So their actual origin, are you referencing the time past, or are you so the volume 1 is a little bit different than I remember, obviously, from the movies and the cartoons in the 90s. Volume 1. So are you referencing part of volume 2 then, for my sake, before we go forward?
It could be volume 3 by the time they get to that. The introduction of Splinter's past life.
And
that
was
Turtles.
volume 2. That was part of volume 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like until you get to that, like a lot of this is just unexplained. It's just like you spent a year training 3 turtles and we're looking for the 4th, and they're all like, I don't know where this guy is or even if he exists. Like everybody has their issues with it. But like I really enjoyed the way that the story was told. I thought the art was great. I thought that the panel layouts really worked. I'm now more a fan of the 2012 movie or 2014 movie because of the way that it draws from this story and kind of amalgamates it with the previous Turtles origins. The parts that I didn't like about it were kind of the parts that were drawn from this. And the fact that I read this and I see, okay, that's where they got that from, kind of makes me less critical of that film, because it is an adaptation, a more literal adaptation than I originally thought.
Sorry, I'm still fighting my computer here.
You look and sound great on our end, man. You really do.
Yeah, you guys, everything sounds terrible on my end. So keep talking. If one of you guys wants to take over a second, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, Carson, why don't you? There he goes. Yeah, Andy, what did you think about the turtles here and them all having the same color? That's something that I enjoyed, and them kind of earning their stripes.
So that was confusing at the beginning for me. I didn't realize what was taking place, and obviously, who's who. It's kind of hard to tell unless you're a mega Turtles fan like Dutson from Two Brothers Comics. It's kind of hard to tell, just based on the dialogue alone and the body movements on who's going to be who, unless you're really looking at their weapons, a lot of other things. Well, they didn't even have their weapons at that time too. That's another good point.
Right.
What did I think of that? I don't know, man. It made things a little confusing and a little muddied for me, but I did appreciate that. Made me appreciate the definitive moment where Splinter delivered their actual colored masks more so. So maybe that was a ploy more to make that area or that time frame more impactful on the reader. I guess that would be my guess or my takeaway from that.
Now, did you have especially with them all wearing the red bandana, did you have any trouble delineating these turtles? Because one of the issues that I did have with volume 1 is that this series does a great job with giving the turtles their own personalities and really letting them shine on their own. And servicing each of the individual characters as they go through these adventures. And I kind of felt that with volume 1, a lot of that gets lost in the service of setting up this story. So the turtles don't really get their own individual personalities as much in the first volume. Do you feel like moving forward, reading into volume 2 a bit, that you start to see them blossom a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the only takeaway I had in volume 1 was I think Raphael had some bigger cheeks, maybe, unless I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah, he's kind of got a rounder face. Mikey's got freckles. And yep. Nearman said that, and not Nearman said that.
Yep.
Shout out to Rob Worst. Mikey has freckles. It's the easiest tell at the beginning. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it began to be easier. My English escapes me tonight. It got easier in volume 2. It really did. It's amazing how much of a role a colored mask will play with 4 green turtles. So it did get easier. It did get better at the end for me, moving into volume 2. And originally we were only going to read volume 1 tonight. Volume 1, I think I had that done in about 35, 40 minutes. I was incredibly
quick read.
happy. I was incredibly happy with it wasn't extremely challenging to read, but it was rewarding and it delivered, and it didn't take up an entire day. And then I was able to move on to volume 2. And then you messaged me like, hey man, just telling you right now, if you don't read volume 2, there's gonna be spoilers. I'm like, well, I'm about halfway through it right now as it is. So that was good.
What did you think of the origin story that's told here versus what you knew of a turtle's origin story from previous media?
Dude, I fell in love with that. I really enjoyed this origin story of the turtles because like I was just watching the original movie before we went live, and I was watching April O'Neil, the reporter, and I was like, oh, this is memories. This is really cool. That yellow raincoat, her getting jumped at the beginning and all that, or mugged. I'm like, this is really neat. But it was so much more badass when you got April O'Neil, the laboratory research assistant or whatever, sitting down and all of the stuff happening in the laboratory with Splinter, with the turtles, and the serums and everything going on there. And the explanation and the detail they went into with that serum that split Splinters. I mean, the fact that serum has to do with why he's named Splinter, that was great. As a kid and growing up through the 80s and the 90s, or whenever I was first introduced to turtles and going on, why was he named Splinter? This filled that in for me right there. I'm like, bam. That was actually pretty cool. It's splintering his human. Well, it was not human at the time, but it was splintering his ability, the animal and the human aspects, making him more human in a thought process. I forget what they called that drug, but that was actually really cool. I like how, spoilers, the lab getting broken into and that stuff getting stolen created that event in the alley, which thereby creates that origin story for Old Hob. Was it Hob? Yeah, Old Hob the cat. That was really cool. And you've ever wondered why he has an eye patch, they explained that in there too. That was awesome. So I digress a bit, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I really did. I almost wish I would have had this back in 1990 in the movie. That would have made for a movie that would have had multiple layers that not only kids could have enjoyed, but adults going on moving forward.
I would suggest check out the first Michael Bay Turtles film because that does give you more of this lab rat origin.
Is that the 2014 one?
Yeah. Or 2013, somewhere around there. Personally, though, having all of the previous turtle origins in my head, I couldn't reconcile every time there's a little twist and turn with it. I kept, expecting something and getting something different, which in a way was just like, what is this? And then another way was very exciting to open me up to a story that I haven't read yet. But for me, the idea of that little animatronic rat practicing kung fu in the cage from the 90 movie is just so great, and I kind of missed that. But overall, I really enjoyed this origin. I like how when it gets more into the stock labs or whatever the hell they're called, Baxter Stockton and his company gets more into them in volume 2 with the Mousers and all that good stuff, and into volume 3 as well. It's a really, really solid retelling of this origin. Like Carson said, kind of the ultimate Turtles universe when you think of just kind of updating the origin story. So I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was a great place to start. I had questions with the pacing and the way that it was kind of told, but I think that when you get into about midway through volume 2, this story just keeps chugging and chugging and chugging. And really the only reason I stopped reading is because I didn't want to get too far ahead and forget what was in volume 1 and volume 2, which I already did. I already forgot like what falls where, because I was too busy enjoying this story from the jump. We got Carson backstage. Carson, you able to jump back in, or no? I'm getting waved. I'm gonna get waved off. This is like Guys, I want to send down a shout out to Carson because Turtles is like his thing. He is super duper into Turtles. He's been so excited to read this volume, so excited to talk about the toys, the cartoons, and all that nonsense. And he's on the outside looking in. So much respect to see Wood 19. Andy, what would you say you thought about the art in this book? You already talked about the representation of the Turtles a little bit, and you like the way that they looked. But as far as the art goes, what did you think about the art? What would you rate the art in this book out of 10?
Well, I mean, you're welcomed with Kevin Eastman covers, which are definitely no slouch at all whatsoever when it comes to Turtles. And that just, I mean, we eat with our eyes. That sells the book. That draws you in. It really hammers the point home, that art. It really does. Getting into the book, the color palette played a huge role in my opinion, with the mood, with the city. I really like Casey Jones wearing that skull t-shirt on page 1 right when you first open up. Nope, that wasn't Casey Jones. Am I remembering that? Yeah. See, Drew, I read too far ahead and now I'm getting a little lost on the beginning. The art was great. Like I said, one of my favorite opening panels, if I can get this to come out and get this to work on the iPad. This reads very well on a mobile device, by the way, via Comixology. One of my favorite panels in the beginning, opening up, is that one, that first battle scene. You get the big, wide, toothy Turtles grin. You get that, just the proportion, just the look of the Turtles for me. That's what I remember growing up with the toys. Who remembers those toys in the package with the big, funny side grin sticking out and that round head, that round polished head? That just, well, it was very welcoming to me. Like I said, the color palette was great. The paneling, the way it was laid was really easy to read, in my opinion. Almost effortless to bounce from page to page, from section to section, in my opinion. I've had very little struggle trying to figure out where I needed to be on a page, even on a digital read. And digital is usually a struggle for me because they don't deliver that full page aspect very well, or the double page spreads or the double page layouts. And then bam, you move into the laboratory and you get a big color palette change. You get bright, happy tones when things were good for them. And like we talked about, the origin stories, April O'Neil as a laboratory assistant is way cooler, in my opinion, than a 90s reporter. I digress.
Takes her the Lois Lane out of her a little bit, though, in my opinion. She does kind of do a little bit of research and detective work throughout the thing, but it as a researcher for StockGen, I think she does much more service to the mutant side of these Turtles and their origin. Personally, with the art, I think that it's not super polished. Eastman does all these layouts, which kind of gives it a really straightforward classic storytelling approach, whereas Dan Duncan does the finishing work and the actual pencils on the thing, and everything just kind of has this I wouldn't say sloppy, but it's not super polished, but it all has this energy and this kind of movement to it, like the way that these fight scenes come up and the way that the fighting is depicted. Every single page just has energy, and it's just like the close-ups of old Hob shouting at them during their encounters. That's one I wanted to pull up, because it's just like there's just so much energy in it, and just one panel of a shouting cat. It's like he's yelling about his eye, but the energy in that panel there is just it just jumps off the page, and there's just the scenes with Splinter as a rat fighting the Foot, and then again the cat in the sewer. There's just such great energy to all of and such a kinetic feeling. Everything feels like it's moving on the page, which is great. That's exactly what you want in a book like this, which is just full of action.
Agreed. And I like how you brought that up, where you, at first glance, the art might not necessarily be as polished, but I think that helps drive the nail home for me when you talk about action and conveying movement. It's odd. how something that seems a little more unrefined actually delivers more in a different area when it comes to action and emotion, conveying action and emotion. Like, look, we're talking about 4 characters that look extremely the same. The only way to really tell the difference is minor facial imperfections, colored bands, and no pupils, no eyes, really, just white eyes. So the unrefined panels they're still putting way more into being able to deliver. I'm sorry, I can't. I gotta. Carson, yes,
No.
he's here.
I was enjoying. Don't do that.
Yes.
Anyway, that
He
works.
always
He's in the
does it.
basement.
I think what it lacks in polish, it has 4 times as much in character.
Yes, but for some reason, yeah, that lack of polish, they're able to deliver more emotion and more
Yes.
action, in my opinion.
Right.
And it pays off.
You could have cleaned those lines up, but it would have taken so much away from the story that you're telling.
Agreed.
All right. You know what I haven't done? Hopefully it works. Oh my God, I can click on people. We got the uncanny Kyle Walker hanging out in the chat. We got 2 brothers waving. What's going on, 2 brothers? We got Ruben Guzman, Cowabunga fam. Nice to see you, Ruben. We got Chris Barrett. He was too busy shaving to just be first, but we love seeing Bad News Barrett hanging out in the chat. We got Ricky Markstadt, founder of the Discord server for the Comic Corps, hanging out. We got Rob from Not Near Mint. Me, Phil English. That's impossible. Ralph Wiggum. Love me some Ralph Wiggum, some Simpsons. And yeah, this Turtles book is amazing, isn't it? So good. Oh my God. I sat down. The only thing that stopped me from reading it was random phone calls from Chad, which me and Andy were talking about. But yeah, this was.
I didn't answer his random phone calls, so I did all right.
This whole run was introduced to me by Chad 90 Miles from Comics. YouTube is 90 drinking it, man. Love that guy.
YouTube was 90. Now 90 is daddy.
Yeah, there's a little 90. But yeah, he's the one who kind of kicked me in the butt. He's just like, dude, you love Turtles. Like, why are you sleeping on this book for? I'm like, I really have a good reason. I just never got onto the bandwagon once it started. And he kind of kicked my butt around issue 88, I think was the first one I decided to just pick up on the shelves. And I read pretty much 88 up until the current part of the run. I think I just read issue 108 today, basically. So I read 20 issues so far. And then I have the deluxe editions, which I'm just looking for the right excuse to read every one of them. But yeah, this was like probably my 3rd time reading volume 1 and 2. And I actually, like I said, I got sucked into it. I probably read into, I think, the end of volume 3, early volume 4, right where they have their first encounter with the Shredder and his granddaughter Karai. So that was really awesome. But a funny observation I wanted to make is I actually enjoyed reading this a lot more in trade than hardcover, because the hardcovers are deemed, I think, like ultimate editions or whatever. So when you read the hardcovers, it'll go like issues 1 through 4, and then you'll get like one of the specials or like the mini series or whatever, like the micro series.
Oh.
But when you read the trades, it's just Turtles 1 through 4, Trade 2, Turtles 5 through 9, so on and so forth. So I actually kind of really dug the trade format better than their hardcover format. So I don't know if anyone else out there has had that type of experience before or not, but I actually kind of just enjoyed like getting the main story out of it, because there were parts in that hardcover where it just completely broke the pacing, in my opinion. Obviously, when you're dealing with micro series, annuals, one-shots, the pacing wasn't designed to fit into the ongoing series. So when they do that in the hardcovers, it kind of makes it a little bit harder to read, in my opinion. We got Captain Comics. What's going on? He says, howdy, mates and mermaids. Nice to see Captain Comics. And Ricky Markset says that anyone not got it on what I said about Casey Jones. Unfortunately, I was tearing up my computer. I did not see that comment. I'll have to go back and revisit it at some point. Sorry about that, Ricky. But yeah.
Ricky, if nobody laughed at your joke, don't keep bringing it up. Just a hint.
I love me some Ricky Markstead. He's one of the best. But yeah, this Turtles run, I agree. I think Kevin Eastman said it's his definitive Turtles. Like if I was going to hand somebody the definitive Turtles product, maybe the 1990 movie, but this would be a very, very close second place in my opinion. But yeah, the art, I think the artist, sorry, I had it written down, but it already escaped me.
Dan something.
Yeah, you're right.
Dan Duncan.
Dan Duncan.
Yep, Dan Duncan. Absolutely.
Dan Duncan's 1 through 12. Andy Kuhn is 13 through 16, and then Ben Bates is 17 through 20.
Yeah, Dan Duncan. I love the way he draws the turtles and Splinter, but I think his turtles are a lot better than his humanoid characters. I like Casey Jones's mask, but sometimes there's just too. I don't know. I just don't like the way he draws Casey at times.
Well, it's interesting. The turtles are rounded. The turtles are very 90s. Like I was telling Drew, I really liked. But the humanoids are very square, aren't they?
Yeah,
It's got a very
absolutely.
John Romita Jr. quality to him.
Yeah, almost kind of like
Yeah.
what's his face from Chew a little bit.
Oh, okay. A little bit of Rob Guillory in there. I can
Yeah,
see
a little-
that.
Yeah, a little bit more
Absolutely.
cartoony. Like there's definitely a cartoonist quality to this art here, where that's not like an very loyal to anatomy, and it's more impressionistic than realistic in my opinion. But that I think really works for the story being told about giant turtles crawling out of the sewer to fight crime against ninjas. Like, how realistic do you really need it to be? And I think that that's not the fact that the art is a little bit more sketchy and a little bit more cartoony isn't a fail. I think it's very much a plus and not a minus. It goes in the pro column.
Agreed wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So, I Drew, how far did you read? You said you read up until volume 4. Right?
Read through the first Shredder fight. So I
Okay.
think that's
Okay. So I
4.
must have read volume 4 as well.
Okay.
I think I read the same length as you did then, because I read
as soon as I was like, "Oh, Shredder's in this thing. Let's see what happens here," and then that was over, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna read this Eternals before take a nap today."
Yeah, pretty much like the last page I left off on was where April and Splinter finally get to meet. Spoilers, Andy. April meets.
I got
Splinter
to
and Turtles.
I got to the beginning of the volume 3, and you're like, okay, let's hit go live, and I was like, oh, it's time.
So Ricky was calling us out for being late. I was like, he's absolutely right. We need to go live, and we had no gimmicks or anything. So, but yeah, Andy, you said earlier that volume 3, kind of getting into the art and stuff, and that detracted you from keeping going.
Partially. So, you guys are selling me. If Kevin Eastman is calling this the definitive Turtles run, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna keep going. Dan Duncan's Turtles brought me right back to the 1990 Turtles. The only reason why I didn't dive back into Turtles in the 2000s, when I started making some money and getting back into collecting in the mid 2000s or whatever, was there was a very big push to modernize Turtles, right? And when it came to the new cartoons or whatever I was seeing, they were a very different looking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles team than I remember.
Yep. Yeah,
And
we're going to get into that.
It kind of broke my heart to the point where it's like, you know what? That's one of those things where you remember, you ever have such good memories of a movie when you were a kid that you never watch it again because you don't want that movie, you don't want the remembrance of that movie in your head to be completely demolished. That's where I was at. So that's where I was at for a long time. And dipping into volume 1, I was very welcome back in with that art. I'm like, this is my 90s Turtles. I love it. Volume 2 was great. Volume 3 is definitely a switch in artists. And the Turtles got skinnier. Their faces aren't quite as round. And I'm kind of like, I'm going to have to warm up to this. I'm really going to have to work into this. Me as an adult, as a collector, and as a reader now, I can appreciate and understand the differences in art and artists. So I'm not going to be completely butthurt going forward here on 15-year-old me or 20-year-old me. You know what I mean? And can be completely upset and be like, why would they ruin my Turtles? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I'm going to read it, but I still want my 90s Turtles.
Yeah. I felt like this series, I don't know why I hadn't dived into it yet, but it's kind of the perfect amalgamation between Eastman's original story, where it's much grittier, much more serious, much more grounded, and the cartoons, which are much more goofy. I think that it's kind of the perfect middle road for him to drive this story down. And I think that him taking the opportunity to go back and be like, well, I was a little too violent the first time around, and maybe the kid stuff is a little too lighthearted. So let's kind of balance it out. And I think this really works on a lot of levels.
Yeah, I think for me, what works strongest in this series is the fact that they've had all these years to make and try new things and do different things with and create new characters. That by the time you get here, that's why I call it the ultimate version of Turtles, like Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men. They take the best traits from everything before and pour it into this. So you get, of course, the classic Turtles. You get them started in red bandanas, and then you actually give them a reason to have the color bandanas later, which I really thought that was awesome. They eventually even introduced like the purple dragons from the 2000 series. You kind of have that balance of characterizations from the Turtles. Like, Donatello does machines, of course, so he's the tech guy. So when you introduce this whole concept of reincarnation, him and Leo clash several times over what's going on with all of that. And of course, you got the fun-loving Michelangelo, and then on the opposite side, you got Raphael, who's he's separated from the family, and he just is always angry, it seems like. So I definitely love the fact that, they have all of these great traits from previous properties, whether it be the original movie, the original series, the 2000 series, and they just grab and cherry pick everything they can to the point where it's almost like every 3 issues, there's like a new villain introduced from your childhood. I'm like, oh, they got Baxter Stockman and Krang and the Shredder. Oh, Shredder has a granddaughter. That's awesome. Let's throw her in there too. Oh, this new character Alopex is in. That's awesome. I've heard about this Alopex. So they just keep like planting these seeds every time these other ones are fully grown. So it's a very well-paced series, in my opinion. So like Drew, you read 4 issues. We pretty much read to the same point. I think it just shows how great of a binge read this thing can be.
It's a quick read too. Carson, I want to ask you before you get into the chat, because I know that's exactly where you're going.
Yep.
I brought it up to Andy when you were in hiatus and limbo back there in the backstage trying to figure out your tech situation. This story does a really great job, like as you move through it, of delineating these turtles and giving each one the opportunity to really have their personality shine. And I think that really took a backseat in the first volume to story. Do you agree with that they really didn't have a chance to even kind of develop personality until volume 2?
A little bit. Like, I feel like volume 1 was just so fast paced between the stuff going on with Old Hob, them trying to put the April lab origin story on top of it. There wasn't a ton of room to put their personalities in. They tried to put a couple seeds in there. Like,
there's a lot of Raphael stuff.
Yeah, it's a ton of Raphael and Casey too. Like when you see Raphael, you get to see him meet Casey and go on from there. And pretty much the traits you get from them are just from April talking about them. And you already know where they're going with that after a while. She's just like, oh, the feisty one, that's Raphael. I know.
Yeah, the one crawling up the other side of the tank away from everybody.
You see the
else.
one eating everything, that's Michelangelo. And then the one studying bugs, that's Donatello. So that they at least try to give you that information as fast as possible. But yeah, it was like a breakneck speed of pacing in the first volume. Just because they also, I think they had to explain like a lot of who Old Hob was, because obviously he's the character most people are probably least familiar with at this point, because he's the one they have to build up and kind of create, and you have to figure out like, what is this character? How did he get mutated? How did he lose the eye? Why does he have against the Turtles and Splinter? And you get all of that information instead of the character traits. I was just trying to figure out, like, it took me just a minute to figure out like which turtles which, because they're all wearing the same bandana, but at least the colors had, the wherewithal to at least give that green shading to each of the turtles. Like Michelangelo did have like that darker darker green shade to him. Whereas Donnie and Leo, I had a little bit of tough time telling the difference because they were kind of the same shade of lighter green. And of course, Raph was on his own storyline, so that one was no problem.
Donnie has like a smaller, rounder head. He's more of a pinhead.
You want to talk about a mega Turtles fan picking up on some of the most impressive details. Drew and I were talking about how I picked up on some of the facial characteristics, and not near mint. Rob picked up on the freckles, and I picked up on the big cheeks. But you've picked up on the color shading.
Yeah, there's different color shading.
I didn't even know there was different color shading in that front volume one. Read that.
Yeah, Michelangelo. Actually, I think once they get Raphael in, and like that, I think it's issue 5. Even he has a different shade of green. Once you'll notice that once they're all 4 together, they all 4 have. I think it's like a throwback to the video games too, because they were differently shaded in the game.
It could be reading digitally. I
read it digitally this time too. It's in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just
take a nice close look. You'll see it.
You're hit the optometrist, Andy. Apparently, your eyes are going.
I got a little glaucoma going. I need
let's go ahead and get into the chat. There's plenty of fun shades here in the chat. Here we got Chaos and Comics. What's going on, man? He says, did they eventually put on their colored mask? Yeah, I think it's literally issue 5, the very beginning of volume 2. It's a very cool Christmas issue where they get Christmas gifts, and those Christmas gifts are their bandanas. But what does Raph get? He gets his size finally. So that was pretty awesome. Ricky Markstadt asks, how many turtles are there? It is not 4. Well, in this volume, it was 4 turtles, bud. Eventually, you
started off with 3, and then there were 4.
That's right. Technically, it was 3 to start off, but the whole clan was 4 there looking for their turtle brother, and they wore red to prepare to meet him, and it was really cool. We also still have Captain Comics. Chef Schultz, what's going on, man? Nope. Perry, he's not lurking. Oh, my God. Ooh. Oh, never mind. He's not lurking in here. He's lurking in the chat tonight. But, yeah, I think it's about time. We got to give this a score somehow. Andy, I'll go ahead and start with you. What is your overall ranking of TMNT Volume 1?
This is tough. This is honestly tough because I feel like I'm bridging a massive gap of Turtles fandom from one end to the other, and I've got a big gap in the middle there. But I'm gonna have to go 9.8. I really am going to have to go 9.8 with this. It reads very well. It's paced very well. I loved the origin stories and the way they did that. And I could sit here and ramble for 20 more minutes, but I got to go 9.8.
What about you, Drew?
I had some minor issues with the pacing. I had some minor story issues with Raphael being basically on the surface in the city of New York as a giant fucking turtle for a year with nobody noticing. That's kind of, I mean, but beyond that, as an ongoing, this volume 1 did exactly what it was supposed to, and I finished it and was like, okay, where's the next one? So I can't really judge it too harshly on that. I'm going to take some points off and go ahead and give it a 9.4. I think it's very solid. I think that as I read this through 3 more volumes, the series as a whole is definitely a 9.8. The first volume just has some questionability to it, and I think that they did a great job fitting 30 years worth of Turtles exposition into the pages here. And they did sacrifice some of the character stuff in that first volume, but it all kind of hits its stride in volume 2. And as a 4-issue lead up to that, I think this is really, really good, if not near perfect.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking and trying to put this in perspective, and obviously I'm going to give this a very biased score because I can't not. Like, it's literally impossible for me, I think. But just this fact that this came out in 2011, I was trying to think of like post-2010 stories in general, and this is probably this volume 1 is probably a story I've read more times than any other book that's came out in the last decade. Like, the only other thing I could probably think of that's close is Court of Owls. I've probably read that almost as many times as this, including, our review for this. I'm probably gonna have to go 9.8, gold label, signed by Kevin Eastman with a little Raphael head sketch on there for sure. So I think I gotta go 9.8. It's just, I think the pacing's great. Makes you want to immediately read the next volume. That volume makes you want to keep going. It does what a comic book should do. It makes you actually want to read it. It builds some great seeds going into the following volume, and so on and so forth. And it pays awesome
volume 2
what came before it.
Right, volume 2 is like all set up for volume 4. They kind of just skip over it in volume 3, and they don't really give you as much like lead into it until the Stockman stuff and the Crank stuff kind of comes back around. So there's like all these really great threads of all these different stories that are coming together as the series moves on. I just think volume 1 being like that launching point, it does a great job in what it's asked to do. I just think it doesn't give you as much as the following volumes do. Just my opinion. But yeah, you're right. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. You read one issue, you want to read the next, and then you want to read the next, and then you want to read the next. It's there. There's no chore in reading this book. So if you get started, be prepared to need to read the next one. So give yourself some time.
Yeah, I would probably compare it in terms of pacing and just overall binge read quality to Invincible. When we did Invincible for this show, I think I did the exact same thing and ended up reading like 4 volumes of that. They were just kind of like nice, short, and sweet, but they're really easy to get through, and they made you want to keep going and going. So, absolutely, even if you're like on the fence Turtle fan or, not really into Turtles, I would at least just give this volume 1 a try and see what you think of it as just a comic book. Like, I literally think, like, in terms of especially comic books, this is easily the best one to get into.
Were you born between 1980 and 1992? Did you ever have a pizza party as your birthday? You should probably pick this up and read it. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Like, just come on, man. Just pick it up. Read it.
Absolutely. If me and Drew agree this much, you should probably check it out. But anyway, yeah, we still got an awesome chat. Chaos and Comics. ComicManAndy, he's in the chat. Look at that. Ricky marked that.
That guy's everywhere.
Comics, 2 brothers. Oh, man, these guys are great. But I want to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because we're not going anywhere.
Turtles.
So I want to learn about your guys' first experience with Turtles.
I like Turtles.
Yeah. So I'll actually, I'll just go first because I've probably repeated myself 10,000 times. And I'll just do it one more time for the sake of this show. So my first experience with Turtles is I was at Walmart with my mom. We're just doing some shopping, and we always have to go through the toy aisle. I was a kid in the late 80s and early 90s. Why wouldn't you go through a toy aisle? And anyway, in that toy aisle, I was probably looking for like a new Snake Eyes or Duke G.I. Joe action figure, maybe hoping to get a glimpse of that USS Flag, that big ass freighter that the G.I. Joes looked that big on. And the thing was this gigantic. That thing was amazing. But then I kind of turned around and I saw this weird green action figure. He had 2 sides, a red bandana, and a squishy head. And that was Raphael. I was just like, what is this? I had never seen an action figure like that before. Usually they were the smaller ones. Like, He-Man was probably like the closest one you would have got. My brother was a big He-Man guy. So usually in the fights, he would win because he was the older brother. And because I think I just soured on He-Man a little bit. I let him keep the He-Man toys. And I think, we shared, or maybe he let me have the Thundercats ones. But when I saw that Ninja Turtles one, for some reason, I just never seen anything like that. So I bought that Raphael. I got it home. It came with like cool weapons. I'm like, I need more of these. So then I got the rest of the brothers, Splinter, that first edition April, and of course Shredder. And I just had to have all of these things. And I was just, as a kid, I was obsessed with getting all of these action figures. And then eventually, I don't remember my first recollection of the cartoon, but I remember it was aired at 6:30 in the morning weekly or daily on Channel 4, syndicated out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And we had to like turn the antenna on the roof just perfect to be able to watch it. So I remember like fiddling around with like one of those giant, like, you get like those outdoor antennas from Radio Shack, and then you got the little dial, you got to like turn it, and then like you can hear it turn on the roof. That's how I had to watch Turtles almost every day. So just trying to figure out how I could watch Turtles. And I found out it was on CBS Saturdays. Those were the new episodes. The syndicated ones were the reruns. So yeah, I literally had 6 days a week where I could watch Turtles as a kid. And it was absolutely awesome. So I'll let you guys take over for a little bit. So Andy, what does Ninja Turtles mean to you? What was your first experience like? Do you remember?
Dude, very similar. All right. So where I grew up, instead of a Walmart, we had what was called a 5 and Dime. It was a suburban 5 and Dime. It was an old carryover of just like a general store that wasn't like a grocery store. And that's where I grew up going for toys and things of that nature because it was right next to the drugstore where my parents went. That drugstore is where I bought my first Punisher comic, Well, that 5 and Dime next door is where I bought my first G.I. Joe toy. And I was a big G.I. Joe fan as a kid. Well, that was where my first introduction to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lineup. That first Green Turtle, Donatello for me. I do vaguely remember that a long time ago purchasing that. But moving on from just the toys and the collecting of the toys, for me, my biggest memory and my biggest takeaway from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm really excited about this, was the arcade game in our local Pizza Hut every Friday night, every family Friday night Pizza Hut. Here's $3 in quarters. Play that arcade game while we wait on the pizzas. And then that eventually turned into the Saturday night sleepover in my neighborhood at my buddy's house up the road with the NES release where we played that NES. Same thing. You got pizza Friday night with the arcade. You got pizza Saturday night at your buddy's house, and you're playing the Nintendo version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was turtles over the toys, the video games. And I loved it. And I wish I could rewind and I could go back to that. Even into the Game Boy game. I can't even recall the amount of time I spent on those video games, especially the NES game. Everybody remember that water level?
Oh,
God. Yeah, that was it for me. That's probably what broke me for a little while there. Was that moment. But Drew, man,
could have broke anybody, man.
Yeah. Go ahead, Drew.
Look, I'm looking for an image right now, but I can't seem to find it on my PC. I just saved it. Look, there is one thing that really I remember the most about the Turtles, and it's kind of like the Turtles were always a part of my childhood. Like I can't really draw up that first moment when I saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It had to be the cartoon. I know that for a fact that Christmas we got every single toy. And when I say every single toy, I mean we got all 4 Turtles. We got Bebop and Rocksteady. We got April O'Neil and Shredder. We got the Foot Soldier. And not only that, we got enough Foot Soldiers that my mother apparently had the foresight of knowing that you needed to army build for Foot Soldiers because there's got to be enough random ninjas for all the Turtles to fight. So between me and my brother, we got like all the toys. But the thing I remember the most, my most treasured moments of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'm not sure if you guys are aware because you're not on the East Coast here. There's a thing called duck pin bowling. You guys know duck pin bowling?
Nope.
All right, duck pin bowling is like this little like bocce ball size like ball. There's smaller pins and you can just palm it and then you roll. It's bowling, but there's smaller balls, smaller pins, shorter lanes. It's called duck pin, right? My parents were on a duck pin league, Perry Hall Lanes, Baltimore, Maryland, and we used to go every Friday night. And while they bowled and drank beer with their friends, we would spend all of our money in this machine.
Yes.
All of our money in this machine. And the fact that this machine was so... Andy talked about it already. Like, this lives in every child of the era's memories. It is one of the greatest coin-operated arcade games of all time. And the fact that you could, after you got good at this thing, put a freaking dollar in it and roll for hours. Like I can't imagine how much money the bowling alley lost not putting like a Mortal Kombat machine in place of this thing eventually. Because 50 cents, 2 fights, you're done. Okay, cool. Then you got to put 50 more cents. No, this, like, you load up on lives and you just keep going. These beat 'em up side scroller arcade games were so much fun. You get 4 people on them at the same time. So it's me and my brother, and then whoever the hell else happened to be at the bowling alley that day. And there was never a missing slot on this arcade machine at peak times. 4 people playing at a time. You could wreck these levels. You could roll on these guys as the Turtles. The more Turtles you had, the more fun the game was. And it's just, it was the best memory of mine with the Turtles was these arcade games. And the Nintendo game came out, and I was severely disappointed that it wasn't this game, right? It was like at the top down side scroller, drive the van around, really hard to figure out kind of game. That as a small child, I had no patience for that. Like, it was fun and I wanted to be the Ninja Turtles, but after a couple of deaths, you just kind of took it out and played something else. And until the Ninja Turtles, the arcade game sequel, Ninja Turtles 2 was this arcade game.
Yep.
And my God, that thing never left the NES. It never left the NES. It just didn't leave until the third game came out. That second one never left our Nintendo. Like, there are plenty of games I'm sure we missed out on in that time. Like our Ninja Turtles fandom probably ruined our Nintendo fandom, like as far as that's concerned, because it took over. It was the game. And the fact that we all had our favorite turtles, the fact that my brother knew that, you know, he had to not be Raphael because I would punch him in the throat to get Raph. And you know, I knew the same thing happened with you know, he was a Leonardo guy, so like I couldn't take Leonardo unless he wasn't around because
it sucks on this one.
Yeah.
When I tell you Saturday nights were the neighborhood pizza sleepover turtles video game night, like my buddy's parents gave us the whole basement, sleeping bags came over, pizzas came downstairs, we would play till everybody fell asleep. That didn't happen for a couple of Saturday nights. That happened for a number of years continuously. When Drew says that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #2 didn't leave the NES for a long time, oh God, he's not kidding you. There were many NES games that we never played as kids because we didn't stop playing Turtles every Saturday night, pretty much.
Oh yeah, oh my God! Like I said, this game, especially this one right here, never left the NES. Like you guys said, like that first one, I actually sold as a kid. That water level made me so bad. I sold that to somebody at the yard sale. Like, I was not a fan of the first one, but this one, I was so happy. It was so mind blowing as kids. Like, I could play the arcade version at home, even though, like, if you compare the two now, they're vastly different experience. Well, they're the same level, but one's 4-player, this one's 2-player, and it looks worse. But hey, when you were a kid, it didn't matter in your brain. Just the fact that you could play those levels in your own home was amazing. And then this one,
our Nintendo TV was a shitty TV, so we never really noticed the difference in graphics.
Right. And then like this one was one of the more underrated NES games, in my opinion. A lot of people usually they go from this one to Turtles in Time to SNES, which
Manhattan Project was a good one.
This was good too. Like, don't sleep on this one. If you have the opportunity to play this as well, or grab a copy of it on the cheap, this one's absolutely worth it. One of the more better NES games, in my opinion. And it's all new levels. You probably have never played any of those levels compared to, you know, the arcade ones.
He's got the sleeves and everything, Drew.
Oh yeah, these are the only thing I don't know why I didn't keep the boxes as a kid. I didn't keep the boxes till the 64 era, but I have the instruction book for this somewhere. I don't know why it's not in the sleeve. I'm kind of annoyed about that. But anyway, before we keep going, I do want to get into the chat. We got Comic Mag Musings. What's going on, man? He's hanging out in the chat tonight, and on the from Twitch, we got SRG_Flicks. What's going on, SRG? Thanks for saying hi in the chat. We love seeing people from Facebook and Twitch hang out as well. But I was wondering if you guys have ever read the original run Mirage TMNT. It's something I'm slowly trying to collect, but hey, getting these things isn't easy, and I'd like to get a lot of them before I really start diving into it. So have you guys at least checked out the first issue at any point in time?
Yeah, I've read the first issue.
I thumbed through it via a friend, like a reprint, but I'd never actually sat down and read it. And one of my biggest regrets in comic book collecting is I found a copy of #3, first print, 9.6. This is probably 12 years ago on eBay, and I won it for $34 or something like that.
Wow, nice.
15 years ago. Yeah, my dumbass traded it into my local comic book shop for credit about 4 or 5 years ago on some modern stuff that I really wanted to read. And that book's like 10 times as much now.
You better have bought some sagas with it, Andy.
Don't look back in anger. Like Oasis says that.
Yeah, but I would have been one step closer to having the first, 2 or 3 copies in graded format. But I mean, oh man, I wish I need to. Maybe we need to add that to the poll.
The original OG. Okay,
All right.
it's not a
One of
bad
these
idea.
Not a bad idea at all. My question is for you guys is, do you honestly think that without the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that pizza would be as big a part of the American dining experience as it is today? Because I would honestly say no. I would say that every single time you saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was an advertisement for every mom and pop pizza shop that ever existed.
Agreed.
Yeah, like I don't know if like Domino's, Pizza Hut, and all the frozen pizza companies, they owe Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird some money, is all I know.
Yeah.
If the Turtles ate tacos, everybody would be eating tacos every Friday night. It'd be like Taco Friday.
Yeah, it looked like Demolition Man. Like they would have won the franchise wars already.
Right. It's like, how many times did your parents go, what are we doing for let's get some pizza? The kids will love it.
I'm the pizza slut that I am because our family grew up once a week, that Friday night Pizza Hut, end of the week celebration that everything is done. And back then, Pizza Hut wasn't expensive and it was easy and it was good service and it was a sit-down family meal still back then. And then you walked in that door and there were the arcade games. There was the claw grabbing game, like the... Can I go back in time, dude?
I know. I was the same about this place I used to go to. It's called Pizza City. And it was kind of the same experience. It's like a $4 pizza buffet. And then like they always changed out like the arcade games you could play while you're waiting on your pizza and stuff. But yeah, just like I feel like half the like in the early 90s, like everything just became a pizza buffet with an arcade somehow. It was a pretty amazing time to be alive.
And then Chuck E. Cheese was
more pizza buffets.
Yeah, see, we didn't have Chuck E. Cheese where I lived. It was kind of depressing.
We had Chuck E. Cheese, but the arcade games are all Chuck E. Cheese branded garbage games.
They weren't in the beginning.
Yeah,
they weren't in the beginning. They
skee-ball though.
Yeah,
they knew.
What's going on, K. Titus? Konnichiwa, my friend.
Oh, what's up, K. Titus?
Hanging out in the chat tonight.
I hope your family's doing well, man. Hope everything's going well. I know he had some trials and tribulations, so hopefully things are on the up and up for you.
So another thing we need to talk about, and we've already alluded to it several times, is what was it like when this movie came out? This 1990 movie, in my opinion, was like the biggest movie, well, since Batman 1 year earlier. Like that was like the 1-2 punch of that time. And really like those two movies are like the segue into the 90s from the 80s to me. I think like if you're showing someone like, well, what was the difference between the 80s and the 90s? Like, just watch these two movies and you get that segue, in my opinion. So, do you guys have any recollection of when this first movie came out? Like, what it was like if you were in school or whatever? I remember, like, all of my school was just buzzing about it.
Everybody watched this damn movie. Like, and for me, for years, I have pointed to the first original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie, as the reasoning why a direct adaptation is not a bad thing. They do a fantastic job with pretty much a direct adaptation from the cartoon into a movie, a live action movie. And, you know, everybody else who made a live action movie is like, oh, you know, we can't put costumes on the X-Men. That's too campy. Like, no, you know, what you do is you take what works and you give it to us. And that's what this Turtles movie did. I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved that movie. I thought it was great. You know, there's gritty things in it like kids smoking, which you never get in a kids movie today.
Oh God, yeah.
But
regular or menthol?
Yeah, exactly.
Cigar. It was a cigar in that first movie that kid was smoking.
It doesn't matter, man. They were all smoking. Like it was. And you know what? I want to join the Foot Clan. You can play as many arcade games as you want. Free cigarettes. There's a half pipe. Why would you not want to be in the Foot Clan?
That's 90s right there, man.
Yeah, they had a lot of... What was that? Oh, I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah, Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell was the one who offered you cigarettes. His breakout role, I guess, technically. So, Moon's
Comics Mag's Musings in the chat. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, we got Rob Worst is back, too. What's going on, Rob Worst? But, yeah, that movie, like, I still think it's very, very watchable today. Like if I was going to pick between that and Batman, I would pick Turtles every time, probably.
Ooh, damn you!
I agree.
That's kind of, I don't know if
It's a
that's
much
my
better
hot
film.
take or not. I think it is a much more watchable, better film.
So we didn't go to the movie theater when I was a kid growing up. I don't know why. Probably scheduling. My parents both worked 2 full-time jobs pretty much growing up. But the Batman movie was the one that once it hit VHS, definitely dating myself here. When it hit VHS, that movie was home every weekend. They love that. We love that movie. The Turtles movie, not so much. It wasn't something my parents were interested in. I didn't get to go see it in the theaters, and I didn't get to see it until we were having some of those sleepovers, and that was rentable on VHS. But damn, we love that movie. Oh, we love that. And you're right, man. Pizza sales.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who they endorsed. Was it Pizza Hut?
I'm pretty sure it was Pizza Hut back then.
I don't know if they switched back and forth. I remember they got a Domino's pizza in that first movie, though. I don't know if that was just pure coincidence or what.
Because Pizza Guy's got 30 seconds.
Yeah, he had 122 and an 8. I need to get a better route. Master says never pay full price for late pizza.
Well, you know what's funny? It's funny he steps on a 10 and the guy's like, it's $13. I'm like, oh, pizzas are still kind of the same price. Here we are.
Pizza is shitty water dough with cheap cheese and sauce. It's not expensive. Like pizza shops charging you $20 for a pie. That is a fucking racket. Now, my question to you guys is, I know that this was a cultural thing. So not only were like me and my brother, I know that you and your brother Seawood were probably into the Turtles at the same time. Andy, you said you were having sleepovers. I know that like all the kids in the neighborhood were into Turtles at the same time. I'm gonna like an over under on how many times you jumped off a couch, said cowabunga, and kicked your friend in the chest.
Oh,
because I'm gonna go like 12 million. Over under.
I'll give you another one, Drew. How many times have you hit yourself in the face with a pair of nunchucks trying to be Michelangelo? My parents had I don't even know where they found it. It was like the perfect set though, because they were like just rubber. It was just like rubber and then a little rope. So like they weren't like the actual wooden ones, or others that had like 50 broken noses and 20 black eyes.
Maybe if they were wooden, you'd have learned quicker not to hit yourself in the face with them.
But yeah, I just remember I heard someone make the point like a couple years ago on YouTube, like in the cartoon, which we'll get into a little bit because Andy, you were already talking about it. They changed Michelangelo's weapon to like the nunchucks to like this little rappel rope because so many people were having nunchucks accidents that they took them out of the cartoon.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, I hit myself this side right here. Probably all over my face, the back of my head with those nunchucks.
I remember that conversation asking for him and being told no. So I vaguely remember because I was told no for the nunchucks. I can't tell you how many times I disassembled my mom's broom and turned it into a staff.
Rob said I hit myself in the face and nuts more than once, more than a handful.
Oh man,
that's the thing. If something is so inspiring that you'll entirely take too many shots to the nuts while enjoying it, like, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
But even that second movie, like, I think that second movie, it's not as serious or good as the first one. But oh my God, is it a fun 90 minutes? It's pretty much like the Rocky 3 of Ninja Turtles, in my opinion. You don't have to think about it. Just sit back and have a great time. And even like they didn't bring you back Casey Jones, but they introduced Keno. And God dang it, Keno is pretty cool too. I like Keno. Ernie Reyes Jr., he's pretty awesome. So I thought it was cool they gave him like a full-blown role in this one.
I still got the Vanilla Ice song stuck in my head.
Yeah, the Vanilla Ice. And the first one you got Hammer, the second one you get Vanilla Ice.
And then you get the Super Shredder. Kevin Nash is in that movie.
That's what kind of killed it for me. They build up Shredder, they bring him back, they bring back Ooze.
Drop a pier on him.
And they drop a wooden bridge on him, and that's what finishes it.
Toys, the Ooze add-on toys.
Oh yeah, that Super Shredder toy is one of the all-time best. Except those shoulder pads fell off real easy.
Real quick. Toka and Razor were great characters.
They were.
That was a lot of fun. Some giant mutant babies. That was
burgers. That's my favorite part of that movie.
You know what was even better is like we're playing video games where the turtles go back in time, and then in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, they go back in time. Wasn't that great?
Yeah.
You think it should be, but
It was. Stop hating. It was fun.
Oh, wait.
It was almost third fun, and that was when
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in feudal Japan. Come on, man. That was good.
Casey Jones having to babysit the people who traveled forward in time was a better storyline than the turtles back in time.
It was a great B story for a fantastic A story. It was. It all worked.
It's a shame I enjoyed the B story better than the entire movie, though. Well, like I said, at least they got Casey back. I will give them that. And in April, I don't know if they just paid like Paige Turco to make like a 5-minute appearance. It's kind of like, what was it, Lois in Superman 4 or whatever? She's at like the beginning of the movie. Then you don't see her till the end of the movie because the actress was doing like a real project or something like that. Or she was deemed too crazy to be on set. I can't remember with Margot Kidder back in the day. But yeah, Turtles 3, not so good. I didn't care at all. They had such like a deep well of characters and bad guys they could have fought. And instead, they send him back in time, and they fight some guy named Walker, and they drop another guy off a cliff, and he disappears before he hits the water. It's so bad. I don't like.
But at that point, at that age, you're sold anyways, and you enjoy it anyways. I did.
I was actually. I guess we'll bring up this question now before we get into the other quick topics. But I was going to ask, when did you get out of Turtles? Because this was a 1-2 punch of getting me out of Turtles. I'll be perfectly honest.
Ooh.
It was between this and Turtles, the Next Mutation, which, hi, Catrin Figures, how you doing? I know you love you some Venus the Ninja Turtle.
Cat's here?
No, she told me to shout out Venus. If I shout out Venus the Ninja Turtle, I have to say hi to Cat because that's her favorite turtle. So good on you. You know, I respect that you like what you like, but when I saw that they were trying to be a poor man's Power Rangers with terrible everything combined with this Turtles 3, and then I kept getting the same action figures, I kind of stepped back from Turtles after all of this.
You know, there's only so many different sports you can have the Turtles play as action figures and have them still be a viable purchase. I think that kind of, for me, when you couldn't, like, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures had a resurgence with, like, the real skin kind of rubbery movie figures that came out. And I thought they were really dope. They had great articulation, really fun toys. And then, like, the original line continued, and you got some of the goofiest iterations of these characters over and over again. I think that's kind of what pulled me away from it. But there was definitely the Power Rangers came in and kind of stole their thunder.
Good point.
What is that face for? Sushi pizza?
No, I was just reading. Has anyone tried seafood pizza with mayonnaise instead of tomato sauce?
Not seafood pizza because I'm allergic to a lot of seafood, but I love a Philly cheesesteak pie, which has like a mayonnaise sauce, like a garlic aioli sauce instead of tomato sauce.
How are you allergic to seafood?
Comic Mag Musings.
That's how I was born. Why don't you be a racist about it?
You're closer to the water than either of us. Wow.
That doesn't affect, like, it's not like a mutation that is affected by my geographic location
here, so I'm going with it.
All right. Well, I can't eat seafood. Well, I can eat like shrimp. No, I can't eat shrimp. I can eat like fish. But...
I remember when you told me that when we were going to Baltimore. I'm like, wait, what? You're the guy.
Can we get crab cakes? That's what everybody says when they come to town. Like, I have no idea where to get a good crab cake because that's like it's really instant vomit / diarrhea for me. So I do not seek out the best version of that. I'm sorry. How good could that possibly be for me?
I totally pulled this off the rails, so I'll definitely bring it back on the rails.
You're good.
Carson,
I think that the pizza thing. Let's get back to that Philly cheesesteak pie with like a mayonnaise sauce is great.
Go ahead, Andy.
Carson, I'm with you on that, man. 93 was movie number 3, so let's talk about capitalizing on money in movies. 91 or 90, 91, and then 93. 3 movies within a 3 or 4 year period. They were definitely capitalizing on it. After that third movie, I don't know that it was the movie quality that did me in, but I think they just didn't do anything after that. And I think Drew hit the nail on the head. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers kind of stole the Turtles' thunder at that point.
It did.
they flooded the market. They took over, it seemed like. Had they brought Turtles back in a form or fashion that would have drawn my attention, I probably wouldn't have forgotten about them. Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, is they were kind of forgotten about at some point.
Yeah, and you were talking about, we'll just kind of go ahead and talk about the animated series now. Like, once you get into those later seasons, it was almost like they changed animation studios, I believe. Like, they had these like raccoon circles around their eyes for some reason. The intro song changed. They included clips from the movie into the intro for some reason, because that's what they thought people liked the most at the time. So, Andy, do you want to touch any more on that? Because you're kind of talking a little bit about that earlier.
Sorry, I was texting. I totally got side rail. I was texting the boss upstairs. She's making a pizza for me right now.
Oh, wow.
Little tear of joy dripping out of his eye there.
It's pure joy, man.
She read Kay Titus's recipe and got an idea in her head.
I can't quite remember how that question folds into the topic at the moment, but literally she's making a pizza for me right now. So that's pure joy.
You're officially the Michelangelo of this panel. That's amazing. I don't remember what the next question was going to be.
I think that, Power Rangers kind of came in and Turtles had its heyday, which was like literally like late 80s through like 95, 96. So you're looking like 5 to 8 years of just utter saturation. And with Eastman and Laird being in charge of pretty much all of the creative for the toys and things of that nature, up to a certain point, I think that they wanted to get as much out of it as they possibly could. You never know when that train's going to hop off those tracks and stop chugging along. And I think they did a great job with it. Eventually, though, you got the Power Rangers that came in, and it was the new hotness, and you can only stay on top and hold the attention span of Ritalin soaked little boys for so long before something else makes them karate chop their brother in the face. I think the Turtles at that point in time, like mid 90s, you kind of got their foray into Image Comics. With their Savage Dragon crossover and a more adult version of the Turtles, kind of to appeal to the kids who are now 16 and not interested in the cartoon anymore. There was something else for them to move on to.
Puberty, yeah.
Right, but I think that it's something that's generational, and I can't think of really anything else that had that kind of impact generationally as big as Turtles did. Like you think back to He-Man and Thundercats, and they had their spot, but it wasn't that big. You think about Power Rangers, and I think that it wasn't as pervasive into popular culture as Ninja Turtles was. You got one movie out of them before that all went to shit, and Turtles got 3. So just think of it on that level. Think of how long and how many toy lines there were for Ninja Turtles, and how big a deal that was for how long. I think that it kind of ebbed and flowed out. But as soon as I think that all starts going away in the early 2000s, you get Nickelodeon like picks up the ball and runs with it with the Ninja Turtles. We got that the animated movie that came. When was that? 2005,
2007. Yeah, it was in the
there was another TV series before that, and there was a TV series after that. There's like the Ninja Turtles have found a way to maintain a space in that children's entertainment bubble.
Yeah.
Pretty much with just a very little hiccup in the late 90s.
So if you look at it, it's almost generational. You made a comment about Power Rangers not being as big as the Turtles. I feel like you're correct in that comment for our generation, and I feel like the generation curtailing us right behind us is like, well, no, they're I feel like that generation is disagreeing with you wholeheartedly. And
I feel like they'd also say that Pokemon's on the same level, and I don't think that it is.
Right, but I feel like there's a micro generational aspect to this as well, of 3 or 4 years where there's a ton of Turtles fans that are diehard Turtles fans, but then shortly thereafter, there's a ton of Power Rangers fans that are massive Power Rangers fans that also like the Turtles. You know, like I don't
show
like
me a casual dining concept that owes its life to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I'll bow down to you. But like, come on, man. The local pizza shop was on the shells of the Turtles. Like the cultural impact. When was the last time Vanilla Ice wrote a song about the goddamn Power Rangers? Never.
When was the last time he actually wrote a song?
It was probably Go Ninja Go, Ninja Rap. That might have been the end of his career. But let's just go ahead and say that it was one hell of a way to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, I digress a fair bit. I mean, it's just great topic, great discussion back and forth where that generational aspect is. I feel you're right. There are other people out there that might debate with you a little bit, but they might also feel that you're right as well.
I mean, I'm a huge.
You didn't like G.I. Joe and their pork chop sandwiches.
Get out of here.
Look, I think G.I. Joe had its time as well. I just don't think it was as pervasive as the Turtles were through pop culture. I think that when you look at the Turtles now, like the Turtles have such an impact that when you can look at different kind of fandoms and say, oh, Star Wars fans, oh, Marvel fans, oh, DC fans, oh, Turtles fans, they're on the same level.
Yeah,
when you think about it that way, like I don't think that the Power Rangers kind of get that. And to be honest, I love the current Power Rangers comics. I was never a huge Power Rangers fan, and they won me over. Kyle Higgins and his writing style a few years ago won me over. So I'm definitely a big Power Rangers fan at the moment. But I just don't think that, like, for all of the bedrooms in the late 90s, early 2000s that were adorned in Power Rangers memorabilia, I think that the number of bedrooms adorned with Turtles memorabilia in the late 80s, early 90s blows that out of the water.
I would agree with that, actually, yeah. And how many of us were taking the Turtles toys and running them across the G.I. Joe aircraft carrier and then getting yelled at by their buddies because you can't clash Turtles with G.I. Joes? The hell I can't, man. Let's do this.
Yeah, my Turtles fought Thundercats all the time.
Batman and Lion-O every single day, basically.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, this is so
fucking
great.
Lion-O might have been a mutant.
Yeah.
You never know. That whole town, that whole planet of cat people was probably soaked in mutagen due to some sort of Krang nonsense. Think about it.
Perfect. Sold.
Crossover.
Yeah, the only bad thing was like Mum-Ra couldn't fit in that little Technodrome cage. Like, you guys ever had the Technodrome with that tiny ass cage? You could barely fit like any of the characters.
I didn't have the Technodrome. I never got play sets as a kid.
I think the Technodrome was still one of my favorites. I had the sewer lair, the Technodrome, and then I had several vehicles to go with it. But
Moms would never get me a play set, but she would understand the importance of having more than one foot soldier. Like there's a level of nerddom that my mom got, and we were very blessed to have. And then there was also this: you have these other things you can play with them on. You don't need a play set taking up room in the house.
Yeah, I upload one picture. I got to show. My mouth was watering when I was showing this picture because I'm on a diet. But these things, freaking amazing. Hostess Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, man. Did you guys ever get a chance to?
You're like the CM Punk of turtle pies. This is your goddamn ice cream sandwich hill to die on, isn't it?
Yep. Look at this thing. It's amazing. Like freaking. You know, like most of these, like
they were delicious
pie or whatever, just had like your basic like frosting on it. This thing came in like green icing, and it had awesome vanilla pudding power inside it, and it usually came with a free trading card, depending on what movie was out at the time. This picture had the Turtles 2 trading card. It looks like so. These things were the most amazing things back in the day, and they haven't been quite replicated since. It's kind of like the high C like Ecto Cooler. People are finally replicating that. Maybe one day we'll be able to drink an Ecto Cooler and some turtle pie. Delicious.
12 years later, there are ice cream WWE ice cream sandwiches back in the the stores.
Yeah, I doubt those are quite the same. It doesn't have Jim Duggan on the ice cream
God, I'm
bar,
sure. Yeah, there's nothing like a coked up Jim Duggan on the side of your kid's ice cream cone.
Carson,
Tough
there's
guy.
there's an entire Facebook group devoted to bringing back the TMNT turtle pie.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
look
look closely at who the proprietor of that Facebook group is. I'm sure it's Carson.
Oh, wait, Carson, dude.
Yeah.
There's a food.com recipe on how to recreate these damn pies.
Oh
too.
my God. Great Legend, if you're watching, if you'd still do the cooking with Legend, can you do a turtle pie and mail it to me?
This is epic.
Oh, man. Yeah, these things were amazing, to say the least. So, yeah, Ninja Turtles. Does anyone have any final thoughts on TMNT?
Yes, we need to do another TMNT episode.
Oh yeah, we could. I mean, you could. Drew made a lot of points I never thought about previously. How big it was. Someone mentioned Star Wars in the chat. It's probably like second place to Star Wars in my opinion on just building its own brand from the ground up and like hitting on every spot, like television, movies, action figures, video games, like just every bed sheets,
Sleeping
Hey, you remember the stage show tour?
cereals. Yeah, stage show tour
Coming out of our shells, baby.
Or the Turtles, you can count on us. So,
Yeah, it's like, well, what's really big right now? New Kids on the Block. Well, how about we do that, but we put them in turtle suits?
Carson, the trading cards.
yeah, trading cards, absolutely. I mean, who didn't have those trading cards?
Bazillion packs of those trading cards back then.
Magazines. I had the Turtles magazine even. Like they would have posters, kind of like Nintendo Power. I have a bunch of those on my wall still at my parents' house. They didn't take them down. They're still up there. So, Drew, final thoughts on Turtles?
Man, I love the Turtles, and I think that I never really thought back on how much of an impact they had on me as a kid. I always like to remember, different things. I remember the X-Men quite often because I'm still really entrenched in those characters all the time. But reading this book tonight or today for tonight and really thinking back on the Turtles really gets my mutant amphibian shell encased juices flowing. And I kind of want to get back into the Turtles a little bit more. And, knowing that there's 100+ issues of this run to dive into, I won't be stopping reading these Turtle books anytime soon. And the NECA figures are a little bit, I see them behind you. They're a little bit hard to find and not worth chasing, in my opinion, when I'm already chasing a bunch of other toys, but they are pretty darn cool. And it's good to have. I think that as far as a brand, it's really in a good place. As far as the stores of that brand right now, you got Nickelodeon owns the rights to the Turtles and pretty much has a lot of say over what they do with them in multimedia. And I think that they have the best interest of the property at heart, which is kind of hard to see a lot of other companies doing that. Like, Disney did what they did with Star Wars. A lot of people are upset about what they're doing, and a lot of people like what they're doing. But I think everybody who's a Turtles fan can see that the folks at Nickelodeon have the best interest of these characters at heart with what they're doing moving forward. And I think that Viacom owns TMNT. That's Nickelodeon, bro. Same company.
Yep, they're just under that umbrella.
Yep.
But
So
yeah,
I think that the Turtles have a lot of life moving forward. I don't ever think it will be as big as it was when we only had 3 channels on the television. But that's just the nature of media at this point.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's just amazing to see the growth over time of Turtles, because a lot of these franchises, like I just keep thinking like Thundercats as an example. It has time in the sun, and unfortunately it faded away. And now it's just kind of something we think back about. The Turtles has somehow endured since its inception in '84, and the action figure line. Like, hey, I'm still buying action figures today, and so is apparently the rest of the world because I can't find the other ones I want. So
I blame NECA for that, honestly.
Yeah. Anyway, the comic book is better than it's ever been. I haven't had a chance to catch the new Nickelodeon show. I'm just not a fan of CG cartoons. At the end of the day, I don't like the style, so I probably won't watch too much of it. But the people I've heard have watched it and let me know how it is. They've actually said that the quality of the writing is pretty good on it. So at some point, I may try to sit through it. But that animation side and the 2003 series we didn't talk about too much, but it was solid for what it was. I hadn't seen a lot of the episodes. But I especially remember the movie they made called Turtles Forever, where they actually had like Crisis on Infinite Turtles. And that thing was amazing. It's worth checking out if you have not seen that. I think it's even available maybe on YouTube. But Turtles Forever, it was absolutely worth checking out. And those 2003 Turtles were definitely awesome in that. So Chris Barrett was talking about that previously. But yeah, I'm just very happy to see it still around and is as strong as ever. Like I remember my nephews wanting Ninja Turtle stuff for Christmas, and I thought that was just one of the most insane things ever, that they still like the same things I liked when, you know, I was their age, or so on and so forth. So yeah, one of my favorite things, obviously, Ninja Turtles. So that's all we'll say about that. So next week, we're going to be reviewing 100 Bullets, Volume 1, Brian Azzarello, Eduardo Rizzo, and then Dave Johnson on the covers. I got some amazing
I'm
covers.
surprised that won the poll, man. That kind of ran away with it.
I think just John's endorsement. They saw that in the chat last week and saw it in the chat for the actual poll. Influenced a lot of the people. So I was very happy with that too. So I haven't read it probably in 15 years-ish, when probably the mid-2000s when I'm with that creative team and had that trade. But yeah, it's been a very long time since I visited the world of 100 Bullets, so I can't wait to go back into that. And I'm sure we'll have some sort of poll put up tonight. We haven't decided one book yet, so I'm not going to hype up anything for that. But yeah, keep an eye out for that poll later tonight, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, actually, you know, while we're live, I'll ask you guys this. Would you guys want to do a separate show where we just read this Turtles run?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be on a regular schedule. I want to read this Turtles run. I want some accountability to make me read it. So
I would.
It sounds like we're all on the
I'm
same page. I want to keep reading this thing. So maybe either on this channel or one of our own individual channels, we're going to keep reading Turtles because it's an amazing run. And I want to connect the dots between Volume 1 and City at War because they're both amazing. I'm sure everything in between is amazing. And Comics Misexplained has thrown us a bone. He's already trademarked Turtle Power Hour. I love that. That sounds like a great title to me.
Chris Barrett's under the impression that he gets a wild card for his birthday.
When's your birthday? I guess I don't know. He's probably just gonna say like next week's his birthday.
No, he said his birthday next year lands on a Monday.
Oh,
I'm not sure if you've ever watched Metalocalypse and heard the happy birthday song from Metalocalypse, but you can open up your death day present. It's a box of fucking nothing.
All right, so nice. Andy's got to use the bathroom. So besides the bathroom, where can people find you, Andy?
You guys can find me every Monday night, only on the Comic Core. You guys can find me here on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and you guys can find me on my channel and the Pinkies Out podcast on your favorite podcasting devices. Check them out, where we drink beers and we talk about those beers.
What about you, Drew?
You guys can find me here on the Comic Core doing stuff and talking about things. And I keep saying I'm going to put stuff on my own channel, but you see that's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm not. What I tell Kat the other night, I was like, let's do something tomorrow afternoon. She's like, what? And I was like, you know what? I don't want to even talk about it because I'm not going to follow through. And did I follow through? Fuck no, I didn't follow through. That's kind of what I do. But I can tell you're going to find me in a couple weeks reading this.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like I said, all my gimmicks are gone. But week 50, we'll be reading Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I can't wait for that. Yeah, I hope. Andy, I would start soon. Start reading soon. Trust me.
This is a thick boy, and there ain't nothing but a bunch of nonsense on every page. So yeah, you want to get into this one.
So I'm actually going on vacation. So the next couple of weeks, I won't be available too much for content. I'll actually bring that on vacation with me, and I'll start reading it.
I would highly recommend that.
Get prepared for tertiary DC characters you've never heard of.
Yep. Me, you can find me, search Seawater19 on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I'm available on all those mediums. I got a chance to post the mainframe interviews with Kevin Eastman and Sophie Campbell on my channel if you want to find them there as well. I'll probably be live Tuesday tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern for the Tuesday night live stream. Comics of the Atom. Mike and I recorded our Ultimates Volume 1 review, so definitely check that out. We're going to keep reading that, I think. And I think I'm going to start an October series starting October 1st where I read a horror-themed book every day and review it every day. So I'm going to try to read 31 books going into October. So wish me luck. Yay. So yeah, now that I announced that, I'm going to own myself up to it. But with all that being said, join it. I have no gimmicks except dude stand